Welcome to the Fearless Happiness Podcast, where we showcase phenomenal individuals who have overcome serious traumas, life obstacles, and challenges to find their own path to fearless happiness. Listen as Max Njist invites guests from all around the world to share their experiences and spread strength, hope, and faith. This is the Fearless Happiness Podcast, and this is Max Njist.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast, coming to you again today with another amazing and special guest. I know I say it all the time, but it's true. And they always prove me right. So today I have Carrie Drinkwine with me. But what I like to do, Carrie, is have you introduce yourself to my audience, like who you are, what it is you do, and then you and I are going to have some fun.
Well, thanks so much for having me. My name is Carrie Drinkwine. Yes, that is my birth name. I didn't make it up. And I guess to summarize what I do is I help people find sovereignty in their bodies and really return to full self. So I own the Institute of Regenerative Health, where we train and certify people to become practitioners in natural health to help people reverse chronic illness naturally. I own Wise Wellness Holistic Clinic, where we serve clients in clinic and virtually and globally. And then outside of that, really my deepest passion is helping people return home to their soul self. And I've just recently founded the Regenerative Soul Institute, and we help people through teachings, curriculum, ceremonies, globally retreats, and all that, really come home to understanding where they developed the fractures in their emotional field that actually manifested into physical illness. So that's essentially what I do in a nutshell, is help people come home.
I love it. I love it. Just kind of reminded me of a meeting. That's how I always tell the newcomer, hey, welcome home. Come back home anytime, right?
Yes.
I love that, right? Because we need more people like you that help people understand they can get back to as like what we would call our authentic self, right? Because you and I know, right, whatever childhood trauma or whatever events that happened as we were growing up sometimes have shaped who we become. Or like you said, the traumas that will create an illness, and but we don't know where it came from, because like diabetes is not really in my family that I know of, but now I'm a type 2 diabetic, and it's like, where did this come from? But maybe I haven't dug enough. But anyway,
We'll help you with that one.
right. And maybe it is the Starbucks that I drank a lot of when I was traveling 2 hours to work, right? And I cannot drink black coffee. Ugh. But mine was always the sugary, right? Extra caramel or whatever.
Yeah, it's liver. Liver is the root of type 2 diabetes, but you can get rid of it pretty easily.
See, now I see God always works in my favor, right? I'm always meeting these people that will help me grow, and my audience, our audience, obviously, mentally, physically, spiritually, because, when I started this podcast, I had no idea what I was going to do, right? I thought, because I'm in recovery, right, I'm going to make an addiction one like everybody else does. And it almost started out that way, but God had plans. And like now I get to have amazing guests like you that have gone through their own struggles and challenges and now help other people basically get better in all areas of their life. So what I like to do then, Carrie, is go back to some of those challenges. You go back or as deep as you want and talk about those things that have shaped who you are today.
Yeah. It's really interesting to have kind of interviews about this now, because I feel like I have done so much inner work that I almost don't even relate or resonate with the story anymore. But I'll share. So I came from kind of nothing, was born into a lot of chaos, poverty, strife, a lot of like violent communication. It was a tough home. So put it that way. And I was also born a sick kid. So I had like a reflex valve problem as an infant, but my parents just thought I was a terrible child that cried all the time. And turned out it was like infection. So I was put on months and months and months of antibiotics. Then eventually by 1 year old, I was operated on. First surgery didn't go well. Second surgery, I sprung a leak. So 3 surgeries by 1 year old to correct a reflex valve problem, a kidney urinary reflex valve. And so really I look at the energetics of that, of like at the root chakra, that cut in half, cut at the root. And, my whole life I look at I was growing up in survival. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't know where we were going to live. We were always moving around. I remember growing up in a moldy basement, and I always had like, tonsil stones and green mucus in my eyes and all this congestion. I just was constantly sick. And my illness as a child was, interestingly enough, asthma and bronchitis. And so what I know now, and what people I think really realize, is dis-ease or disease is the lack of ease and flow in the body. And it's not just physical, it's actually energetic and emotional. And so the lungs represent survival and grief. And everything I was in, the adrenals are your fight or flight, fight, flight, freeze, right? So I was in survival and grief. These were the two systems that were being impacted in my body. So that was kind of my childhood. Asthma attacks, in and out of the hospital, lots of bronchitis, lots of pharmaceuticals, all that jazz. When I got out of high school, I ended up, losing my virginity at 18 and becoming a mother on the same day.
Wow.
So being a very, going from being an abused child to being a child that's now a mother. And I was like, okay, well, and I look back at it now as like, thank God I had such a hard life, because that was my PhD, right? I got my PhD in life, and that helped me prepare to be a mother at 18. And so I had such a strong work ethic. I worked my hiney off. I put myself through college as a young mom, worked overnights, went to school during the day, all that stuff. And I had a 10-year marriage that was really quite difficult. It really was the realization of, I actually married my mother. In a way, like in my face, I married the one woman that was the one woman I didn't want to become or be like.
Right.
And so it was really this like big aha that took me 10 years to say aha. It took me 10 years to realize this moment of, oh my God, I married my mother because I believe this is what I'm worth. And I attracted this and I created it. And holy crap, I'll say crap instead of the other word. And it was in that moment that there was a click. And I was done with the narration of that shitty story,
Right.
And I was like, wow, I'm a terrible narrator. And I've created all of this because I believed it. And so it was in that moment I actually filed for divorce. And I never looked back. I had two young children. I had a 13-day-old baby and a 6-year-old, and I never looked back. And it was very, very, very hard. But it was after a 2.5-year-long divorce that when it was finalized, I ended up walking away with 50-50 custody, no child support, no alimony. And my ex was like a drunk and had abuse on his record and all the things, So there was all these reasons to be woe is me. But I just started to try to flip everything into beauty as much as I could. But it was after the divorce that all of a sudden, literally overnight, these symptoms came flooding in, like rashes, hives, chronic fatigue. My feet felt like glass when I walked, constipation, like brain fog, anxiety that I'd never experienced before, like crazy anxiety. And I see it now, but I didn't understand what was happening to me then. But that was the beginning of the autoimmune. And it took a couple of years of these crazy symptoms to get to the level where I like passed out driving, and like finally doctors saying like, oh, something's really wrong with this girl. It's not just in her head,
Right. And right, it always takes something serious like that for them to go, she's telling us the truth.
I literally like crashed my car one time because I like passed out driving. And I was like, something is wrong with me, and the bloods look normal. The bloods look normal. And that's the whole thing, is what people understand is the blood is a microscopic window of the body. When something actually shows up in the blood, has been present for 3 to 5 years prior.
Right.
Because the blood is the aftermath. The lymph is always keeping everything out of the blood, but we won't go into science today. So anyways, it was tired of being told I was crazy. And finally I get 3 diagnoses in one day. I'm diagnosed with early onset lupus, Hashimoto, fibromyalgia, and then unexplained infertility, and chronic adrenal fatigue. And I'm like, wait, 6 months ago, you told me nothing was wrong with me. It was in my head. Now I have 3 chronic diseases that are non-curable, plus all this infertility crap, which I was a mother of 2. And I remember thinking, excuse me, I have 2 children. So how did I become infertile?
Right.
None of these diseases or diseases run in my family. So how do I have them? Because we've been taught genetics is, you're following your genetic trajectory. I'm like, well, this isn't in my gene code. And so I had this aha moment of, something changed in my body. And if this can happen, I don't know how. And one of my sayings is, the how is none of your damn business. It's none of your business, right? But I can unwind it. And I didn't know what that looked like, but that really set the stage and started my journey to self-sovereignty and health specifically. So I was very focused on the physical body. How do I reverse this? Why do I have this? All that stuff. And I went on a very long journey, and the right angels were put in my path, of course. And I found the work of regenerative detoxification, and I just like went full on. And this was after working with like endocrinologists, rheumatologists, hormone specialists, functional medicine, naturopathy, like dead end, dead end, dead end, dead end, right? And then I found the work that worked. Everybody always says the last stop. Well, of course it's the last stop, because if it works, I hope you don't keep looking. You know.
Right.
So I found what I was looking for, and I really it was really freaking easy. And I don't mean it in like the sense of easy, like it took a lot of discipline, it took a lot of lifestyle change, it took a lot of commitment, but like our bodies are way more simple than we make them. Like
Right.
dis-ease is created, not caught. And once we undo the creation or the root cause of the reason it's there, it just unwinds itself, because the body is a miracle and it knows how to heal. And so what I realized is that I had over toxicity and undernourishment. I had too many chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals in my body, parasites, fungal overgrowth, all these physical things that were plaguing my lymphatic system, that were causing my body to have this autoimmune, like attack, attack, attack. Well, the
Right.
belief in the Western world is your body's attacking itself. Well, first of all, your body's never attacking itself. Your body's attacking an invader that doesn't belong in the self.
Right.
Yeah. So the body's saying that doesn't belong. So I realized all this. And then in this process of like detoxifying my physical body, I start noticing I'm having days where I just cry all day. And this is very unlike Carrie. Like, I'm a powerhouse, like you're a Marine's daughter. You just
Right.
go, you suck it up, you do the things. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? I just can't stop crying. And it was like this aha moment came up of, I'm not just physically sick, I'm emotionally sick. And it was after my divorce of 10 years of walking on eggshells, of being a young abused mom, and that relief that, oh, it's over, I'm safe now. My adrenal system collapsed.
Right.
And, I was energetically and emotionally sick as well as physically ill. So the physical work was happening. But while the physical detox was happening, one of the sayings I have is the issues are in the tissues. We can't just detox waste without detoxing emotion. Like, emotion is also stored in our tissues.
Right.
And so I started putting all these pieces together of like the things that make us sick. And that is chemicals, pesticides, antigens from the outside environment that don't belong inside, parasites, infections, viruses, dental infections, right? And then moving into like understanding how much scars actually impact our body. They cut the obstruction of flow of life, and they suck up voltage in the body, and they start draining the body. Because it was like after each surgery, because I had all cesarean births, I noticed like my life force dip a little more.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, toxins, parasites, chemicals, pesticides, scars, trauma, right? How much trauma have you gone through that is
Right.
really impacting your energy field? And then trapped emotions. And most people go, emotions don't cause anything. You can't prove that through science. And one thing I like to say to people is, have you ever been broken up with or fired from a job? The answer is always yes.
Yeah.
And what were you like? You had no energy. You laid on the couch. You couldn't stop crying. You couldn't eat. You couldn't sleep. You couldn't do, your
Right.
life force was gone. But if that person picked up the phone and said, I made a terrible mistake, I'm on my way over, you would jump off your couch, clean up your apartment, put on makeup, get your hair done, and you would have
Right.
life force that came from nowhere. And this realization was really what formed my work, realizing that the emotions govern the body.
Well, because of the work you do, and science proves it now, right? Like, our traumas are stored in our body, right? And the narrative that you were set up with, like, it's like someone would, like, when you were getting sick, oh, you're just a bad child. Well, I'm sorry I'm getting sick. Like, this is your fault, mom. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to blame me as a bad child, right? Like, someone with ADD or ADHD, like when I was younger, right? I was a bad child, right? Because I can't sit still and I can't focus, right? So you're
And then
instantly
that belief of I'm a bad thing starts forming all of your life.
right. And that's what starts, as you're saying, what I'm hearing, starting to settle into your cells, right? And over the years of the constant trauma you go through, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, right? It just starts accumulating in your body. And people don't, then now they're starting to understand, no wonder I'm shutting down, because I've gone through it and I've never done anything about it, right? So
Well, and it's like you have to think about it. It takes up real estate in your body. So these emotions are stored in certain tissues, like anger's in the liver, right? Repressed anger. It could be generational anger too. That's not even yours.
Right.
But it's like I always say the issues are in the tissues. So what's happening is when an emotion is stuck in that tissue, it's taking up voltage. So healing is voltage, right? Do you have enough electricity or not? And what's the
Right.
first symptom of disease or dis-ease? I'm tired. I need coffee. I need a nap. I can't.
Right.
It's literally your
True.
voltage is low.
Right.
So the emotion is sucking up your mineral salts, your essential tissue salts. It's literally drying up your voltage. And once the voltage drops too low, like below, when we get below a negative 25 millivolts, that's when we see autoimmune, and below negative 15 millivolts, we see cancer.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's like the voltage got too low, the cell stopped being able to repair itself. And so some of these are just physical, but almost always we find physical, emotional in tandem that's creating dis-ease in the body. So when I realized this, I was like, everyone needs to know this. This is so simple. This is so simple. We change
Right.
the brain inside, we clean up the lymph, we clean up the blood, we get rid of the obstructions in the body, and the body heals itself. Like, why is everybody spending billions of dollars on, research for the C thing and all this? And it really is all about change the internal environment, change the reaction in the environment. And so that set out my work to, I opened my clinic over a decade ago. And then in the pandemic, we were deemed non-essential. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Um,
Okay.
at first I was like, what? McDonald's and liquor
Yeah.
stores are essential,
I
but
know.
like my health clinic is not essential. But it's so good because we almost lost everything. We almost lost our house, our clinic, everything. And I removed myself from my home state so that I couldn't go back into my clinic. And I brought myself to Mexico with my family. I had an infant, literally an infant and a barely 2-year-old. And I built the Institute of Regenerative Health. I was like, if I can't see people, we're going to train globally so that we cannot be stopped.
Right.
And that was the birthing of the Institute of Regenerative Health. And yeah, that's how we got here.
I love it. I love it. Right. As they say, right? Iron sharpens iron, right? And you've had those events in your life that were actually maybe not at the time, right? Where you're going, why me? Right.
All in hindsight, right?
Right? All in hindsight, but it was shaping you into who you are today and what you are going to do for others. Right. And you talk about energy levels, and like, we all know that we're made up of electricity or our energy, right? And that's, I guess, where the Eastern medicine is correct, right? The more energy we have in our bodies, right, the more we're gonna fight off disease, like even colds or flu or whatever. But the lower our energy, that's when all that stuff kind of just sits in and starts to affect, like you said, our system as a whole. Um, but when you had that aha moment, right? Because I love listening to what you're saying today, because I think we need more people like you that are actually like hitting the root of the problem and going, this can be fixed, instead of saying, here's another pill,
Yeah.
take another pill. Or
Well, and there's pills that are, there's a lot going on in the world. The biohacking space even is a very hard space for me to be in because it's still a pill and it's a holistic pill, but you're not solving the root of the problem by giving a holistic pill. You're putting a softer band-aid on.
right.
So it's like we have to actually get to the root. And when you get to the root and you heal it, you don't need any pills.
And that's what I look forward to for us on this earth, to not have to reach for a pill, especially in America. But you said it too earlier, right? You think about all the pesticides and stuff that's in our foods that the United States, and I hate to say it, we're the worst in the world when it comes to that, right? Because I know, like when my wife went to England to go visit her son, like she said, you could totally taste the difference in the meat, the food, because a lot of the stuff we use are illegal in those other countries. And that's why, but America's big on processed food, right? It's easier sometimes for like you said, the young mom to go, let's go to McDonald's and I'll just buy you a burger, instead of, here, I'll make you something very healthy that's actually going to benefit you instead of harm you, right? So, I mean, I love that, it didn't happen overnight, right? And it was those things, right? It's kind of like what David Goggins says, you got comfortable being uncomfortable because it made you learn how to get to that root problem. So I guess what I'm getting at is, how do you help people when they come to you, Carrie, to your clinic, and they said, I've got this whole list, and you go, yeah, I used to have that too, or whatever. Go, this is what we're going to do. So how do you help someone who's struggling and probably doesn't even have faith in what you're doing, right? To turn their mind around to go, this is going to help you better than what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does because, well, one, I think knowledge is power. And I think that's one thing that's missing in the system in general, both Western, Eastern, biohacking, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's, here's your problem, here's your solution, is what they're telling you. And so you're just like checking a box and then trusting this blind person to say, oh, this is what you need. I think that when you get goosebumps, it's actually your nervous system resonating with truth. And so in a way, like I believe when we educate and there's wisdom that comes through, it's like, oh, it's like starts to click in for you. Like that makes sense. That resonates with me. I get that. So a big part of what I do is educate my clients on how their body works. Like your kidneys are filtering lymphatic waste out and your urine is clear. It means you're not actually filtering lymphatic waste out. That means the trash is never going out. It's recirculating. And, so teaching, they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. So if you're always in dirty bath water, how do you clean the system?
Right.
And kind of just teaching them about here's what your liver does, here's what your lymph does, here's the emotions that impact this. And I kind of track the patterns in their body and in their life. And I'm able to basically tell them their life story in 5 minutes, but in a gentle way of saying, these are the organ systems that are being impacted, and here's why. So education is always my primary approach, number one. And then sometimes earlier in my practice, I used to have a lot of people that would kind of push back, like, oh, I need this much protein and I need this and my doctor says that. And I have to kind of sit there quietly and let them go about. And then sometimes it's tough love. Max, it's like, I've said this before and I've noticed this and I said, you're sick, I'm not. You're here to see me.
Right.
Right. Like, that's the hard truth is you came to see me and you are the one that's unwell. And I will hold as much space for you as you'd like if you're open to receive. Right. And so that kind of stops and puts them into this space. But then I try to explain the 5 root causes of disease. Like, hey, you're here to see me.
Right.
I'm vibrantly well and you're not, but I used to be where you are. So empathy, explaining, I'm not better or nobody is better. Nobody's inferior or superior. The moment you get into that, you've lost this equanimity, right? So creating equanimity is very important. How can I relate to this person? I feel you. I felt that way. And what I found was, right? So I say like, oh my gosh, I feel you. I was on such a high protein diet when I was diagnosed with autoimmune. I felt like that's what we really needed. I was doing all the right things. I was exercising. And then what I found was it was actually that I was on so much protein that my kidneys couldn't filter it out. My liver was overwhelmed and I was toxifying my body. Right. So I kind of use these, like I use myself and my story and my truth to help say like, I didn't get that right either. Right. So we need to be able to relate to one another and then empower through education and then show them that they can be helped and served and then showing them, these are the root causes and this is what has, caused the energy deficit in you. And I think it's less about me and it's more about this is how this protocol will help you and serve you to be the vibrant version of you. So it's really stepping out of the way, holding space and creating an equal playing ground.
I love that because I relate that to what I do working as a counselor in the addiction field, right? Like I can tell them without even them saying a word how they feel, right? That's where the empathy comes in, right? Because I've been where you've been.
Yeah.
But I love like what you say, like when they fight back, like, well, you don't understand because, you're sober and you haven't been like this in a long time. But I go, yeah, but my brain remembers what that's like. And I said,
stored on the hard drive.
Yeah, it's all stored there, right? And then I tell them, I said, well, how do you want to get better, right? Because sometimes I don't want to do the 12 steps or whatever, right? I try to let them come up with their way because sometimes I believe if I force that on them, which I've done in the past, right? And I've had clients look at me like with death stares, I'm not doing it, right? They'll go, this doesn't work. And I'll say, well, how do you know it doesn't work? Have you ever done it? And they go, no. And I go, well, I'm just letting you know it's an avenue you could take to help with your recovery, right? Like, because in my world, right, it's all about connection, like kind of what you do with your clients, right? It's like to getting to know each other and one person helping another with that understanding that you are like you and I get where because we've been there, like we get it, right? And you're right. It's not about us, but it's explaining to them, right? This is, in your case, this is how the body works, right? And if you don't understand, you're going to continue the same, right? So I kind of use this is how your brain works as an addict, right? And if you don't change the way you think, your thinking is going to lead you back to what's normal for you, which is picking up a drink or a drug. And
it's a loop. And, you know, one of the interesting things with what you do, and this might be helpful in your practice too, is sometimes I ask them how they would solve their own problem.
Oh yeah.
And they have the answer actually. And so they know, and I just smile and I say, you're the medicine. Like, you're actually your own medicine. I'm just a facilitator and a conduit of information, but kind of showing them the loop that they're in, right? Because everybody's in a loop. When they make the same choices over and over, they're in a loop. And you actually are chemically addicted to your own emotions, even the ones you hate. So you may hate where you are in your life, but I call it molecules of emotion. And it's literally neuropeptides are created every single time you have the emotion, anger, joy, sadness, pain, laughter, whatever it is. You create literally a neuropeptide. It's a chemical. And then the endocrine system goes, oh, that chemical is here, and it processes it. So even if you hate said emotion, because it's been present your whole life, your body loops with it over and over. So you create stories that create and fill that. And so, like, you know, it's when trauma becomes a loop, that's when we get in trouble, right? So we actually attract and create trauma, even though we don't like it, because our endocrine system is hormonally and chemically addicted to it. And so we have to like break that cycle of addiction by replacing it with the opposing action reaction, right? So like, what's the opposite of sadness? It's making yourself laugh so hard you could pee your pants, right? Like, you just flip that narrative immediately. Yep. So it works in so many ways. So like, okay, well, let's look at your diet and go completely the other way, right? Because whatever you're doing isn't working. And that's one hard realization when you kind of have to say that, is like, what you're doing isn't working. And I'm here to help you find a new way. Right. So yeah, I love what you do. It's so fascinating, but a lot of people don't realize that they're literally neurologically and chemically addicted to their own pain.
Right. Well, that's why I used to tease some of the, like, when they're new and they're just, I'd say you're addicted to the drama. You love how drama makes you feel because it makes you in some form or fashion feel alive. And if you don't feel that way, then you're uncomfortable because you've been doing it for so long. I go, I've been there. My son, you know, I would tell him, you're my drama queen because you just love drama, right? Because it gets your blood flowing. Shut up, Dad. No, I don't.
And on a regenerative health side, that's adrenal weakness, by the way. So adrenal fatigue, we seek the high because we're depleted.
Right.
So I work with a lot of people with addiction of like, there's an amino acid deficiency generally, and there's also like an adrenal weakness. And so it's not even like necessarily their fault per se, but they're chemically so depleted that they seek the high because it's the only state in which they feel better. Right. So they're seeking the high, the drama, or the gossip, or the exciting thing because they are so tired that they're depleted that they need the stimulant. And then eventually the stimulant runs the well dry. The adrenals hit ground zero and they crash, you know? And
absolutely. It's true. It's like any drug, right? Like, and science tells you, right? The first time you do like heroin or something that, you know, like cocaine or something, right? It sets the hedonic set point so high. That's where you're chasing and you never
have the same high again.
But you're always going to try because you're always shooting for that first time you ever did it. And that's what I try to, you know, I'd love to. I mean, we could probably be here all day. And I know we could.
Our work is like super parallel. We could help each other.
Absolutely. And I would love to because like I formed my private practice, which is more like coaching, not just substance abuse counseling, right? But like you said, I put them in the driver's seat and go, look, I'm your guy. I'm not here to tell you how to do it, but I'm going to be your accountability partner. When I see you take a left when you should have gone right, I might go, hey, I think you need to go the other direction, right? You're headed for a wall. But there's so much more. I think all this together, like you could help so many recovering addicts figure out why their health is, you know, they're sober a long time, but they still feel like I've run into so many that run into those problems, right? With their adrenal systems not working right. They've gotten diagnosed with
Fading out addiction. So like maybe the caffeine is a caffeine addiction now, or it's a,
it could
something.
be cigarette, nicotine or anything. Because I noticed that happened to me like after a few years. It's like, why am I feeling run down when I should be feeling good? Because I haven't done drugs or alcohol in such a long time.
It's like usually what I find in those cases is like, so I work with a lot of addicts and they'll go through all the work and like really restore their adrenals and really, but then they're still like, well, why don't I feel amazing? And that's when it's like the root of why you had adrenal fatigue isn't gone. So we might have strengthened the gland, but you look at everything as toroidal, right? If you look at quantum physics, we all have a toroidal field. And like you look at the seed of life, everything comes into the center. So everything is coming that is going out is coming back in. We're creating our reality with every belief, every thought, every action we have. And so when we see, like, we get fractures in our field from a trauma or an emotion or somebody that rejected us. So the hole might be rejection, or you create a little hole in our field. It goes like, I'm unworthy. And what comes back in? I'm experiences that re-solidify that you're unworthy. Right. So until we actually go to the root of the emotion that caused the tear of the field in the first place, we don't heal the field. And so we keep having the same experience, but in a lesser evil. So maybe it's like, I'm not on heroin anymore, but I'm addicted to energy drinks, or,
Right.
like whatever. Yeah. And it's true. And it's because they're just swapping out an addiction because they still feel an emptiness and they still, so like we have to go to that root core. So that's where like all the emotional work comes in of like, allowing your body to release that trauma, to find self-forgiveness, to find love. And like, I get goosebumps when I say this, but like, it took me until I was like 40, like 38, 40 years old to truly love myself. That's a really long time, and most people I think die not truly loving themselves. And when you actually find an appreciation for your whole journey, the addiction, I mean, I snorted cocaine, I drank alcohol, I did all the things. I had so much shame and guilt. And these two emotions for addicts specifically, shame and guilt are quote unquote the lowest vibrations in the world. And so when we're vibrating that, we're bringing in experiences that are very low vibrational that just keep us in this loop. And guilt is, I did a bad thing. Okay, well, that's fine. We've all done bad things. When I was a little girl, I stole chapstick when I was 6 because my lips were like bleeding and they were so chapped and we were so poor I couldn't afford it. And my parents called the cops on me. And the cop told me I was a bad kid and I was going to go to jail. And so the belief, instead of it being, I did a bad thing, I'm sorry for that, I know I did a bad thing, I forgive myself for that, it turned into a belief, which is shame. It turned into shame, which shame is, I am a bad thing.
Right.
Right. And so if we have, I am a bad thing, and we go through our life, I am a bad thing, then we're either looking to A, overcompensate to prove we're not a bad thing, or B, escape who we are so that we don't have to face that we're a bad thing. So it's like this whole like, mind-blowing unfolding happened just all through changing my diet and moving to higher conscious food and like opening my heart and using plant wisdom and all this stuff. And it was like, oh my God, my whole life I've believed I am a bad thing. And that's where all my addiction comes from. So my addiction went from, cocaine and alcohol to workaholism, right? It was like one addiction for another. As long as I didn't have to face what I believed or felt about myself, became the addiction. And so when we can truly meet full self and like forgive ourselves for every action that's created a reaction and just like look at our life and go, that was a freaking PhD. Right?
Well, there's something to say about going to the school of hard knocks, right?
Yeah.
Really learn. You're either going to learn the lesson or you're not, and you're going to repeat it until you learn that lesson. But I want my recovery people up there watching or listening, right? Listen to what she said, right? Because that's what I say it all the time, right? Guilt and shame will take out more addicts than anything, right? And resentment, obviously.
And blame also. Blame is one thing that people will blame others because they don't want to blame themselves, but they've actually scientifically proved that when somebody blames somebody else, it actually takes down the energy field of the blamer. So if I'm blaming you for something, it's because I don't want to look at me and my participation, my role. I actually lose my own voltage and you don't lose any. And so it's like when we can get out of this guilt, shame, blame game and get into acceptance and forgiveness, we start completely vibrating at a whole new oscillation and creating a new life, a new experience for us.
I love it. Yeah. And I'm not pushing any 12 steps here, but there's a part in the big book that says acceptance is the key to all my problems today, right? When I can accept that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be in this moment. And you're right. I don't have to blame me. I don't have to blame you. I don't have to blame mom or dad or brother or sister. Things just seem to work themselves out, right? Because you're right. You start to see things differently, I believe, when you're on that vibration. And it took me a while, obviously. I mean, I've got almost 22 years now, but the first couple of years were tough, right? The only thing that kept me sober is because I made a promise to God, like, hey, God, you keep me sober. I promise I'll do the work and stay sober. But, as a recovering person, it was like, I would feel that guilt and that shame, right? And you're right. I see it in the addiction realm so many times. People will exchange their addiction for work addiction. They become workaholics, or they become fitness addicted.
It's like they're addicted to the adrenaline high
Of working out. Exactly. And it's like, and they do that just as bad as they did their drugs. And I've had to go like tell people, like, give yourself a break, right? Just enjoy being you for a moment, right? Because working out's not going to go away, but you're avoiding. I always tell them, like, you're avoiding something that you don't want to talk about.
100%. I did that. I went from cocaine and drinking a bottle of wine at night to doing 2 to 3 hot yoga intense classes a day. Like that isn't healthy for anybody.
Right.
But I was just like, intensity, avoid with intensity. And it's like, we can't create ease and flow with the energy of intensity. Like we can't meet intensity with intensity and expect ease and flow as a result. Right. So yeah, it's really interesting to see like how we create all of this. And it's been, really fascinating because, I used to be so focused on the chemistry of the body and foods and why they matter. And then I was like, well, yeah, that matters. But if we don't deal with all of the emotions that have created those actions, like we're going to be nowhere.
Right. It's funny that because you were talking about like too much protein can be bad for you, right? Because you're taught in the fitness, a guy, you should have at least 200 grams a day, and a girl 160, whatever it is, right? And then you're trying to do that. Then you get frustrated because you can't meet that because you're like, where am I missing out on?
Just eat chicken all day long.
But, but one thing I've been paying attention to, right, is like some of the like older bodybuilders, that from my era back in the 80s that are older now, right? And all the physical and health issues they're having, right? Well, one, we know what, the bodybuilders are, the, abuse
protein and like inflammatory things and probably some steroids,
Right. I mean, I always look at Ronnie Coleman, poor guy, right? He can barely walk now, right? I know because he did. When I saw how big that guy was on a frame that was about my height, 5 something, you know what I mean? I'm like, and don't ever tell me you're natural, pal, but he doesn't admit to being natural. But what I'm saying is like, we see that happening, right? But if we do it right, like you said, we can live have a fit body, a healthy mind, right? Almost like you said, like being mindful of what we eat, right? And learning what to eat, when to eat it, and how to eat it. Correct? I think
100%. So the most interesting thing for me was like, I came from a dietetics background. I was trained very Western, like the food pyramid at that time, right?
Right.
And like all this stuff. And let's talk about like America put on like 1 million pounds when carbohydrates was at the base of the pyramid. And then they were like, just kidding, right? So right. Just kidding. Actually, carbs are not so good for you. The cereal industry is done paying for us. Anyways, but point being is like everybody's looking at macros and they're looking at the wrong thing. We need to be looking at electricity. How much electricity is this food giving to me? So really it's about eating living foods. Is it alive or is it dead?
Right.
So I always say the higher you eat from the ground, the longer you stay out of the ground. So surprisingly enough, I'm the leanest, strongest, and fastest I've ever been at 42 years old, a mother of 5. I can deadlift like a mother and like crazy. Insane. The amount that I can leg press, it's like 500 pounds. Like I can run miles. I do hot yoga. I cycle. And my diet is 70% fruit. So I eat primarily and I eat sprouted seeds and all these things. I'm personally plant-based because that's what resonates best with my body and my chemistry. But it's like I eat food that's alive. Like I eat fresh fruits and vegetables, not even like all the cooked foods, because what you're eating is a live frequency. So it's not just frequency, but you can actually measure angstroms of energy coming off of food. And fruit has the highest angstroms of energy of any food on the planet.
Okay.
So if you think about, I have a smoothie bowl, I'm ready to go out and run some errands. I have a burger and fries, and you're like, can we watch some Netflix and go to the store?
Right.
It's the input isn't equal to the output. So when we put in food that increases our voltage, we're ready to go. But when we put in food that actually takes more energy from the body to digest than the body can receive, we're now in a deficit.
Okay.
So we
That
actually
makes
have to
sense.
look at, yeah, are we in a positive or a negative, or are we always breaking even? So like if you're like, I can never get more money in the bank, it's because you're always breaking even. Or if you're in the hole, it's because you're always putting in foods that are acid forming, really hard for the body, really dead, processed foods, and your body's like, again? And it's got to go to work and produce all these extra enzymes, the pancreas and the liver and the stomach acids all working overtime all the time, every meal. And the body goes, I'm exhausted. I don't have any motivation. So you wonder why you're not motivated. It's because you don't have any energy because your
Right.
is dead. So when you're like, I'm gonna eat, like this today, I've had watermelon, grapes, a superfood shake, and sprouted pumpkin seeds and a banana so far. And I ran 3 miles this morning. I did hot yoga, I lifted weights, and I've been at a conference all day, and I feel amazing. Why? Everything I ate was alive, had enzymes, phytonutrients, antioxidants, carotenoids, polyphenols, minerals, amino acids, right? So I have everything. And when we cook that food, notice how if you cook broccoli, it's like bright green and then it goes to dingy green, right?
Right.
You lose the enzymes, you lose the live components of it. So one of the biggest tips I tell people is just eat more living food. Just start adding more living food. Don't even focus on a subtraction method. Like my clients love avocado toast and bacon for breakfast. I say, great, you can still have that. But what I want you to do first is I want you to have a full glass of lemon water, have a big bowl of melon, and then have a superfood shake. And then after that, you can have your eggs, toast, and bacon. They never make it there. They never make it to the eggs, toast, and bacon because they're like, oh my God, I feel so good and I'm full. But we focus on this addition method. Okay, and before you have string cheese in the afternoon, just have an apple first.
Right.
So you're adding in these living foods, and all of a sudden you realize, like, wow, I have more energy. Wow, I'm not craving that. Wow, my bacteria is changing because what you eat populates the bacteria in your gut. And, with addiction, it's really interesting, but the gut is the first brain. 9 of 10 signals go to the brain, 1 of 10 goes to the gut. So
Right.
from the brain to the gut. So if we don't heal the biodiversity in the gut, we can never actually heal addiction.
I see it all the time, and I always think that too. I mean, I don't know, but when I see certain people right at a meeting, and I'll go, they probably need to change their diet, right? Because they walk in looking like someone killed their cat or their dog, and and a meeting's supposed to make you feel better when you leave, and they walk out the same way. I'm like, right. But this is why I get to have these conversations with you, because I want people to understand, right, that we are energy, and you have to put the correct food to keep our energy going. Or like you said, like after a big fat steak, I don't always want to go outside and work out. I mean, I don't lose a lot of energy, but certain foods I've noticed, like you said, where it's just like, what's on?
Lay down.
Yeah, I want to nap now, right? And then certain foods, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. What do you need me to do, honey? Like, let's go, and all right, we're gonna clean the garage today. Oh, I didn't mean that, honey, but
She's like, have more smoothies.
Yeah. Right. But I have like someone close to me, which we'll talk about after, that I see could use the stuff you do, right? Because they've tried everything and it nothing has worked, right? And doctors want to just continually take this pill, or it's in your head and this or that. And then she's like, no, it's not, right? Like, look at me. Like, I can't hide what's going on with me, like I need to figure this out. But it's been an amazing time. I'm learning a lot, right? I could just sit here with hours and just go over all this stuff, because it totally interests me when I talk to someone like you, Carrie, that has, right, gotten their PhD through the trenches, as they say. I love people that have gone through the trenches, are in the trenches still today. And that's how they help people, because they say, this was my experience. This is what I've learned. Now I'm going to teach it to you. Right. And it's almost like what I do, right? I've gone through the trenches, right? Yes, I've gone back to school, but I learned like way more by the experiences I've gone through than listening to a teacher tell me who probably never took a drink in their life goes, this is what an addict's going to do. And then I go, really? Like I've challenged, I go, let me ask you, have you done any of that? No. Then how do you know? Like, let me tell you, I've been there. I've done that. That's not what happens. And oh yeah, but
Having a marriage therapist that's never been married or in a relationship. You're like, excuse me?
well, and that's sometimes the problem in the addiction field, right? They hire therapists that are straight out of school. They're young. None of them have gone through addiction, and they're supposed to, like the addict as a counselor, they'll come to me and they'll go, that therapist has no idea what I've gone through because they, you could just see it on their face, right? Because you're telling your story and they either got this look of horror or they're like, ooh, I can't relate. How am I going to help this person? Right. They can't, but you've been there. And I'm sure you've seen some very difficult cases come through your clinic where you're like, you even had to take a step back and go, take a deep breath, but I know I'm going to help them. I know how I can do this. So when people come to you, Carrie, and they have doubts, like, how are you going to help me? Right. Like I've heard your story, but how is this going to help me? How have you broken down those barriers? Right. Because I know you said it's getting to know them, right? It's like with anything, like building that rapport. But I know there's always difficult, no matter what field it is, there's always the difficult ones that want to just, anytime you say something, they're going to, what do they call that? Spew something back to counter it, right? How do you get past that when someone is fighting you? You're like, besides you going, well, you came to me for the help, right? And I know what I'm doing, but like, how do you ease their mind and go, trust me, right? Like, trust me, and I know I can help you. This is going to be better. It's going to take some work, but it's going to get better.
I actually ask one question and I kind of get personal. Sometimes I'll hug them, honestly, like heart to heart, hug them and just say, I can feel how much you've been through. And I just want to share my empathy and share my love with you. And then I say, may I ask you one question? And they usually say, yeah, sure. I say, do you believe you can heal? And that answer determines the rest of what's going to happen. And if they say, no, I don't, because da, 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 and I go, then I can't help you because your belief will trump anything we do. And that's a harsh reality. And then they'll start to backpedal a lot of times. Well, like, but everybody said you were the best. And then I was like, if you can get I said, it's not me. I said, I'm not the healer. You are actually your own healer.
Right.
Anybody claims to be a healer, they're so far up their own, you know what? Like, I am not a healer at all. I have healed myself. I was my own healer, and now I'm just a conduit of information. This has been my mission. I was gifted dis-ease and disease and addiction and hardship and poverty so that I could teach sovereignty, health, vibrancy, wealth, right? Like I was gifted these experiences. So I say that, I share that, and I say, would you like your experience to turn into a gift? And they usually say, I would love for that to be my story. I say, well, it can be when you decide. And right. I'm gonna show you step by step. Obviously, when you're coming to me, I'm your last stop. I'm your last hope. So are you ready to go home and say to yourself, I gave up because I didn't believe? And if you are, and if you're fully at peace with it, then you should go home and give up.
Right.
And if you're not at peace with it, even a smidgen of you should give this a try.
I love it.
I do.
That's so cool because you put it right back on them. And if that was me, I'd be going, what do you mean go home and give up? I'm not going to go home and give up.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
What are your other options? If you're saying, I've tried everything, nothing works. Why are you going to work? You're not going to work. It's like, okay, fine. Go home and give up.
Right.
You can't, so go home and give up. And I always say, every choice you make is right. This is really important. Every choice you make is right. If you could have made a different choice, you would have made a different choice, period.
Right.
And, like you would have been at a different level of consciousness, whatever. So every choice you make is right. And as long as you're at peace with the choice, it's perfectly right. Because that might be what your soul came to learn in this lifetime.
Right.
And so if you're like, I needed to learn the lesson of, I didn't trust myself or someone else and that caused death, that was your soul's journey in this lifetime. Right? But maybe your soul's journey in this lifetime is to say, I had to learn to trust in what seemed like the impossible, and I overcame it. Maybe that's your soul's journey. So you just have to understand Am I fully at peace going home and saying, you know what, that woman's crazy. I'm not trying any of the crap she's trying, and I'm going to sit here and die. And if
Right.
you are totally at peace with it, then like rock it out. Have a good end, like eat a bunch of pizza, eat your favorite food, and see sayonara. But
Right.
if you want to be here longer, I'm going to walk with you and help you be here longer. And I've
Yeah.
never had anyone, I've had one person say, and like, I'm out here. And 3 weeks later, they were back at my door and they said, all right, let's give this thing a whirl.
Right.
Because the seed was planted and they found their own truth. It's not me convincing. You should never convince anyone of anything.
Right.
Me needing to convince you, or like, I need you to understand why this is right, Max. Why do
Right.
I need you to understand that? If it's not for you, it's not for you. Next, right? Like, if I need you to understand that, I'm actually draining your energy field.
Right.
Like, by needing you to understand me. I don't need anyone to understand me. I understand me. I understand my work. I understand what I'm bringing to the world. And I don't need anyone because need is a deficit, it's a lack energy. So when you
Right.
need someone to do something or to understand something, you're actually sucking out their energy field. And it's making them feel like desperate. And they're like, oh, you're right. So when you actually don't need them to do anything, they're more drawn to do it. Like,
Right.
like when you stop telling somebody, or when you finally like just leave somebody, they're like, I'm back, I figured it out. Right. Like so often we enable people to stay in their own story because we act out of like desperation and like we stay because we feel bad for them. But it's actually the worst thing we can do is to enable their sorrow, their pain, their story. I don't enable anyone. I'm
Right.
like, if you like your story, keep it. I think it's kind of a crappy one. I think we should write a new ending.
I
If
love it.
you want to rewrite it together, we can. And
Right.
but I go, but it's completely up to you. I have zero attachment and I have zero judgment, and I will love you on your path no matter what. And people think it's weird when you can say, I love you, and even when you don't know me. But when you are love, you can love and hold space for everyone. And so I just say,
I agree.
I love you and hold space for you. If the right path for you is to enjoy beer and pizza for the next 6 months until you're out, celebrate life, go run down the beach, have the best time, and come back again.
Right.
Um, and so when you release them, they find their way home.
It's kind of like the story of Job, right? And his son, right? He just let his son do whatever he was going to do, right? And his son ended up coming back, right? All he did was pray for him and make sure, he knew he loved him. And you and I sound alike, right? Like, I don't tell them like you have to get sober because you need to understand that sobriety is way more better than being drunk or whatever, right? And leave them with little nuggets like you do, right? Because then they go, you're right, it didn't work out there, I'm back, what do I need to do? And then you go, okay, well, here's what we're going to do together, right? But I love what you do because you pretty much put them in the driver's seat. You help them, you educate them, right? Like, this is what we're going to do to change your narrative and all that. But
Well,
right.
I think oftentimes in like functional medicine and naturopathy, there's this like inferiority thing where like, I'm the doctor, I know what's best. Here's your thing. You
Yeah.
don't know what's best. And it's like, actually, they find their own way. They do know what's best. I remember so many naturopaths like actually making me worse. I ended up in the hospital after working with a naturopath because she wasn't listening to me. I was like, my kidneys don't feel right after you put me on that supplement. And then sure enough, I had like a whole kidney failure
Oh,
thing 'cause
wow.
I was detoxing heavy metals without opening my kidneys. Anyways, long story. But point is like you are your own medicine. You know what you need. And I think that there's this weird hierarchy in doctors and even functional medicine field and naturopathy where they believe we are superior, we know better. And it's not like we have equanimity. We are equal. We're just at a different point in our process. I might be on this linear plane, but a little bit further along than you are.
Right.
And so it's just me to say, oh, I've been down that road, and now I'm looking back and I see what that was, and I would love to help you avoid that path of hardship. So when we act like we know better and we don't educate our clients, like we disempower them and we
Right.
make them dependent on us. And that's a sick care system. If my client can only get better if they work with me, what happens if I die? I've disempowered them, right? But if we can empower them and go, you're the healer, it's in your hands. I'm going to help guide you if you want my guidance. If I'm not
Right.
fit, I'll pass you to someone else. Then they start being like, I did this. And because I always celebrate them at at each appointment they come back and like, oh my gosh, look at how much you've done. You know,
Right.
that was a lot of work. Like you did that. And I really validate that they did that. I didn't do anything.
Right.
They chose to follow guidance. They chose to be disciplined. They chose to change their diet. They chose to take their protocol. It's all them. It has nothing to do with me. So I think
Well,
you have
that,
to people.
right. Well, that's absolutely the truth, right? If they're following your guidance, they're the ones doing it, right? You're just guiding them. And I love that, right? That's why I think for me, I mean, as long as I've been sober and worked in the field, right? Like, but lately, the last few years, I see this, like, I don't like it. I'm not going to get into it, but me and
I know.
you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't like what I see because of what you just spoke about. We know better. Listen to us, do it our way, or we won't help you, kind of thing.
And
Or
the narrative is like, look where we are, look where you are. Like
right,
less than, better than. And it's actually like none of us are less than, better than. We're actually all on this equanimity of humanity, just in a different part of our linear process.
right. That's what I share. That's something, in my belief, I believe in God, right? I always tell my clients, look, we're here together, side by side. I go, I'm not in front of you, you're not behind me, not vice versa. I go, the only way we can do this is side by side together. And I'm here just to guide you along the path. And you should see the crazy looks I get sometimes. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You got on 20. You're better. No, I'm not better. Like I have my moments. Like if you see me behind, after work having a little tantrum because something didn't go to my way, they'd be like, now I get it, Max. We are on the same level, right? But
God made no mistakes, and he made nobody to be more superior or inferior.
and that's what I tell them. I said, God doesn't make junk. Believe that. You're one of his kids and he does not make junk. And I get the craziest looks when I say that. And I go, I'm not trying to push anything about God on you, but I'm saying that's my belief. And they go, it kind of breaks the ice, right? Like what you do for your clients, right? Like, anyway, like this, we could go for hours.
We could go forever. I want to just say this one thing. I always think of like addicts specifically, like really focusing on like this is God has given you a divine design. Okay. And what I find actually with addiction, when I've worked with addiction and myself being an addict, I actually find that addicts are some of the most powerful damn people in the world. Like
Absolutely.
the most powerful
100%.
people in the world.
Yep.
And the reason is I get goosebumps when I say this, like it's happening right now. It's because they're such high souls that they actually don't know how to integrate here. And there's like so much like sadness or trauma that they're like, I need to escape this because
Right.
they want to experience love and bliss. And so they don't know how to like cope in this like three-dimensional trauma world. And so they disassociate
Yeah.
because they're actually a high pure frequency and they're very powerful. So when they can realize that like, oh, addiction was showing me that I was escaping sadness because it was too much for me. It's called your soul left you. And so it's like we have to go through soul retrieval. We have to bring the soul back into the body, right? Like come back in
Absolutely.
here. It's safe in here
Right.
home, and then realize like, oh my gosh, my addiction has all be because of blank. And usually it's like, oh, my mom is an addict, my dad abused me. Yeah, what happened? Your soul left your body because it was too painful, and you got into addiction to disassociate from the pain because truly at heart, you're nothing but love.
Right.
And so like the purer your frequency, the harder the addiction. And so it's like actually if you can fall in love with your divinity and your essence and your pure light, you can forgive yourself and you can thank the addiction and
Yeah.
completely move forward.
Absolutely. Like I used to be the one that hated and I always cursed. I wish I was never addicted, right? But once I learned what you just said, it changed the whole way I looked at it, right? It's who I am now, right? It's helped shape and build my character because of all the things I went through. And so now
I'm doing for the world now, like if you wouldn't have gone through addiction, how many thousands of people's lives have you changed?
I'm hoping at least one or two, you know what I mean?
Way more than that, that.
Right. But this is why I love what I do. And I love how I started the podcast because we get to hear from you how we, all relate on some level together, right? You don't have to be a recovering addict. You don't have to be an addiction. You don't this or that, right? We come together and we work together, right? And through your experience, you help people become better people. And I love that, right? So it's going to lead me into some of my questions now, right? Where Like I said, this has been an amazing time, Carrie, and I've had so much fun and just listening to you and learning from you. But we're going to start with fearless. As you can see, what does fearless, going through what you've been through and do what you do now, what does fearless mean to you, and how does that show up in your life on a daily basis?
Yeah, I love this question. So I really think that being fearless is just having the utmost confidence without wavering in any way. Like, feeling fear means like, I think when you feel fear, it's because you have such a strong sense of purpose and alignment. And so, fearless is fear can no longer control your actions or your decisions. You are unshakably strong and confident.
I love it.
You
You
just
hear
go
that?
for it. Like you don't give any bleeps about what anybody thinks about you. You're just like, here I am. This is my purpose. Here I go. So you speak your truth. You stay anchored in your truth, and you don't worry about the naysayers, and you say yes to the next level every single time.
I love it. I hope you're paying attention, everybody. Wow, that was, I love that one, right? Next question, happiness. As you can see, I put a Y in it. I did that for a reason. Knowing I put a Y in happiness, what does happiness mean to you today? How's that show up in your life?
Oh gosh. Happiness to me is literally finding the magic in the mundane, like doing the dishes, Um, anything like happiness comes from inside of you. It's this is innate knowing that like everything around us is divine design, it's magic essentially.
Right.
So I really find that happiness is an inside job. It's literally being able to feel like pure joy and feel light and not, when we focus on like, I have to do the dishes, I have to do this, it's like, God, I get to do the dish. I have dishes. Thank God I have dishes, right?
Big
It's like,
life. Exactly. I used to be that way, but now I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I got dishes to do.
yeah, I think happiness, happiness is like you look at fear as this like low vibration. We have to stop looking at things as low or high or better or different. Like true happiness exudes from within who you are. And it's a great appreciation and a gratitude for who you are, what you are, and where you are.
I love it. Couldn't said it better myself. You heard that, everybody. Well, like I said, Carrie, this has been an amazing time. But I want to ask you, of course, if people want to work with you, if they need to seek you out and get your expertise or want to work with you, like I said, how do they get a hold of you?
Just go to carriedrinkwine.com. So Carrie, drink wine, just like it sounds. I don't drink wine. I don't drink any alcohol, actually. I really believe alcohol is a spirit. This is one thing I'll leave you with. Think about this. Alcohol is a spirit. And we use alcohol even in herbalism or flower essence to literally extract the essence of the plant. And what's left is dead herbs, and the essence lives in the alcohol. So
Right.
literally, alcohol extracts your essence. So just something to think about as you're moving through addiction. But just go to carriedrinkwine.com and you'll find my institute if you're wanting to take my course. You'll find DIY courses that are very affordable that you can just do on your own online. And you'll also find my clinic if you want to work with us in person. But we do global retreats, we have online programs, we have in-person stuff, we have trainings. You can find it all on carriedrinkwine.com. And you can just fill out a submission form and tell us what you're looking for, and our team will get you to the right place.
All right. I love it. Thank you for that. You heard that, everybody. I hope you wrote that all down. Pretty simple. carriedrinkwine.com. Can't go wrong. But like I said, this has been an amazing time, and I could sit here with you for hours, just question after question. How do we do this? How does someone do this? But I know you're busy, and I don't want to take up much more of your time, but I am very grateful that you are here with me. But you're not quite off the hook just yet. Now
Okay.
you're my favorite question that I ask of all my guests, and it goes like this. So, Carrie, what is the one piece of advice you could give my audience to help them grow as human beings and become better people?
Wow, that's a big one. Um, I think it's radical self-acceptance. So, radical self-acceptance of who you are and what you are is step number one, because when you radically fully accept, this is who I am, this is my divinity, this is my essence, and not wanting to change it or blame it or drain it, right? In all these ways, like when you're like, this is who I am, the moment you know who you are and you accept fully who you are, you're unstoppable.
I love it. I know about radical acceptance. I've learned that in mindfulness, right? When I saw that, I'm like, what is radical? And then I was explained what it was. And I'm like, but Carrie nailed it. Perfect. Well, Carrie, thank you for being here. This has been such an amazing time. I'm really honored that you sat here with me today and we got to talk and share so much of your wisdom with my audience. But again, thank you. So you heard her, everybody. If Carrie made you think, if Carrie taught you something, if she made you smile, and my famous, if Carrie made you go, I like that, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so more people can find the podcast. And again, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are in this world. This is Max from the Fearless Happiness Podcast. Until next time.
Are you tired of being weighed down by life's traumas and struggles? Join the Fearless Happiness lifestyle and let us guide you toward a brighter future. Explore our past podcast episodes and get a copy of the Fearless Happiness book to ignite your inner strength. If you or someone you love is battling addiction or facing challenges related to unresolved trauma, know that we are here for you. Visit maxnijst.org, maxnijst.org, and take the first steps toward finding your fearless happiness. Thank you for listening. This has been a production of Fearless Happiness.